Japan Travel Smart Podcast is an original, standalone media project. We remain unaffiliated with any travel agency service or similar commercial venture. This is Japan Travel Smart. My name's Johnny, and I hope you join me to discover a better Japan travel experience. Welcome back to Japan Travel Smart. This is your travel companion Johnny, and this is journey number 20. The vast, lush frontier, national parks of Hokkaido. Japan Travel Smart is a bi-weekly podcast all about the joy of travel through Japan, far and wide, from the perspective of a frequent visitor who just can't get enough of the place that does it best. This is your one-stop shop for the very best of Japan travel, including novel advice and Japan-specific tips to keep you ahead of the game. We cater to first-time and repeat Japan visitors alike in hopes of making the country shine at its very best regardless of interest, budget, or time of year. Vast and sparsely populated, with a completely unique geography and climate, Hokkaido is the northernmost of the 4 principal islands in Japan. With sites featuring some of the most remote and untouched natural expanse in the country, protected areas make up 10% of Hokkaido's landmass, comprising a number of national parks, sustaining and preserving ecosystems of tremendous natural value. Today's show will retrace our steps in the heart of central and eastern Hokkaido on a summer trip to find mountain peaks, lakes, waterfalls, and marshes teeming with wildlife and amazing scenery. And what we found hidden in Japan's northern frontier was much more than you'd probably imagine. This won't be the introductory episode to Hokkaido that you'd expect. We will be setting aside the big city areas, attractions, and events that most international tourists hit up around lower Hokkaido, and will set out further, deep into the country, a destination for the truly dedicated Japan travel fanatic. We will also get to acquaint ourselves with the rich history and prominence of the original inhabitants of these areas, the indigenous Ainu peoples with their proud and persistent legacy. The island of Hokkaido features a decidedly frigid climate with low temperatures for most of the year. On the flip side, Hokkaido is the one location in Japan with actually pleasant and tolerable summers, ideal temperatures and low humidity between June and September, in contrast to the rest of the country. Summer really is the perfect time to enjoy travel in the Hokkaido outback and visiting the national park areas. There are also definitive advantages to traveling in Hokkaido during the summer months in terms of logistics. There will be less chance of weather disruptions causing road closures or the cancellation of transport services. But how exactly do we get to Hokkaido, and how to manage getting around when we're there? The most popular and expedient way to do it from Tokyo is by flying. The Tokyo-Sapporo trunk route is one of the busiest in the world. Besides the major airport of Sapporo Chitose, officially named New Chitose, which is the definitive gateway to the region, Hokkaido is also served by a number of regional airports that may also be helpful to directly reach specific areas and their respective communities. It's important to consider regional airports since public rail transport in Hokkaido, while available, is infrequent for Japan and is quite slow, requiring looking up timetables and careful planning. Here are some of the regional airports of Hokkaido that are relevant to this week's episode. Asahikawa Airport for central Hokkaido, and Memanbetsu Airport and Kushiro Airport for specific areas in eastern Hokkaido. All of these regional airports serve Tokyo in addition to the Sapporo Chitose hub. Regardless of where you land, the most convenient option to get around once you're deep in Hokkaido is by car rental. Personally, the large Chitose airport is the airport we know, and you can't really go wrong with that one. You can start out using the train services and then hit the road with a car rental once you venture out of the city of Sapporo or even Asahikawa. Hokkaido is the location of two of the largest national park areas in all of Japan, with the mountainous and widely renowned Daisetsuzan in central Hokkaido being one of them. Often called the Roof of Hokkaido, Daisetsuzan is the best national park to visit if you're keen on doubling your park excursion with a hot spring stay at a dedicated onsen town. As one would expect from such a vast area, Daisetsuzan has a number of different entry points and can be accessed from several unique locations. One of the most accessible ways to visit Daisetsuzan is from the north at Kamikawa, via the hot spring town of Sounkyo, not only because public transport is readily available, but the nearest peak, Mount Kurodake, has a ropeway and chairlift service that can take you close to the top. It still takes an hour to climb the rest of the mountain, so you will need to be prepared and fit for the task. Past Mount Kurodake continues the mountain range, with an assortment of hiking trails available for different levels of difficulty and experience. Advanced hikers may even cross the entirety of Daisetsuzan over the span of several days. For our day trip, we trekked a bit further to reach the landmark of Ohachidaira Caldera before returning back. The scenery is simply stunning, with dramatic landscapes all throughout and intense shades of green, red, brown, and white. Daisetsuzan also happens to be the location of a mysterious incident involving missing hikers that I've always found fascinating, and we'll take a moment to recap the facts. In 1989, two people were believed to be missing shortly after entering the park. They were both successfully rescued around Mount Asahidake, and they were able to be located by the search team shortly after a large SOS sign made out of fallen logs was spotted on the face of the mountain. However, the pair of rescued mountaineers revealed that they had nothing to do with the creation of the SOS sign. Search teams returned to the site and found human remains and the personal belongings of an individual reported missing since 1984. Among the recovered belongings was a tape recorder that contained a man's desperate pleas for rescue, but it was never conclusively determined that this was the same missing person, how many people really went missing on this side of the mountain, and even who made the giant SOS sign, which should have required a lot of effort for a single person to build. Despite this bizarre incident, Daisetsuzan should be considered relatively accessible and has been safely visited by millions of hikers since its foundation as a national park in 1934. As an alternative to the Sounkyo Gorge entry point, another popular access to the area is via the west at Asahidake and the Asahidake Onsen area, where an alternative ropeway ascent is also available to use. Daisetsuzan is best to visit between the months of July and September for accessible hiking. Back down at Sounkyo Onsen in the north, you'll have the chance to kick back and enjoy a hot spring stay in a prime alpine lodging type location. Budget travelers have the option of a youth hostel, also available to book, from where they can just as easily use the onsen facilities at a nearby hotel as a non-staying guest for a fee. Within the large onsen hotel lobbies, it's possible to enjoy special evening events for the guests' entertainment. We got to see a routine Ainu performance, or enactment if you will, by the local preservation society. The Ainu people are the original inhabitants of the Japanese archipelago, with roots tracing back to the Jomon period. But Hokkaido is the modern region most closely associated with Ainu presence and legacy. While it may be apparent that much of the Ainu minority have since become absorbed into the larger Japanese phenotype, there's been an ongoing official effort from the late 20th century to revitalize and preserve the Ainu's unique identity, history, and customs. At the far east end of the Hokkaido mainland juts out the spectacular Shiretoko Peninsula and World Heritage Site Shiretoko National Park. This is one of Hokkaido's most pristine wilderness areas. Road access to the peninsula is available via Shari, from which you reach the endpoint town of Utoro, or alternatively, Rausu, on the opposite side about halfway into the peninsula. Despite being quite the removed location, we find Shiretoko to be somewhat touristy, since the national park area is inaccessible and impassable past a certain point. There are a number of sightseeing cruise services from Utoro to run a trip of the tip of the peninsula around its waters. Tours vary in duration, but taking the time to head all the way is well worth it and a great chance to spot the unique wildlife. Shiretoko also has a couple of interesting attractions past Utoro as far as the road reaches. The first of which is the Shiretoko Goko lakes, or the 5 lakes. These are all small-sized lakes, one of which is easy and straightforward to reach thanks to an elevated boardwalk built for 1,600 meters. This is an extremely picturesque area of primeval forest and open space, dotted by the mountainous backdrop. The final stretch of road becomes unpaved past the lakes and ends at the parking area for the second location of interest, Kamuiwakka Hot Falls. It shouldn't be difficult at all to spot wild deer on the side of the trail on the way to the falls. Kamuiwakka is a very short hot spring river trail where the water is usually just shallow enough to comfortably pass through with good waterproof hiking shoes. Alternatively, you may soak in the bathing suit-friendly warm cascades there. We understand that there's been changes to this location since we visited, which now has an admission fee and actually requires advance booking online to manage visitor flow. The trade-off is that visitors are now able to apparently reach a fair bit deeper into the river hot spring trail. Shiretoko was recognized by UNESCO in 2005, and Shiretoko leaves us making claim to a beautiful fringe of the Japanese mainland, where you definitely feel like sustainability and conservation efforts take precedence over visitor numbers. We remain in eastern Hokkaido to describe the next national park area. Akan Mashu National Park is another of the legacy parks of the island of Hokkaido, designated since 1934. Akan Mashu is another extensive park area with 2 distinct sides to it. On the western side, there is the Lake Akan portion, and on the east lies other lakes and volcano areas. Lake Akan is a stunning lake, and this section is the most developed of the Akan Mashu National Park, easier to visit from Kushiro City. The lake is famous for puffy and round algae called marimo. The interesting thing here is the ability to take a boat tour to visit the Marimo Exhibition Center on an island within the lake. You can learn all about this wonder of nature in situ. Also on Lake Akan, the lakeside Ainu Kotan village, although small and kitschy, showcases Ainu culture with crafts and performances. The JR Senmo rail line actually runs through the Akan Mashu National Park on its eastern portion. Stops for rail service include Kawayu Onsen Station, serving the hot springs town Kawayu Onsen. One of the main attractions here is actually just a 20-minute walk from the train station. Iozan, the Sulfur Mountain, is an active volcanic area with steaming vents and bright yellow sulfur deposits, As for the large lakes on opposite sides of the park area, you really can't go wrong with either of them. They are some of the most breathtaking lake views in all of Japan. If pressed for time, I would go for Lake Mashu as long as you can confirm clear views on that day. Otherwise, Lake Kussharo features more facilities to enjoy, including open-air public baths along the lake and an interesting Ainu museum to visit. These are the national park areas of Hokkaido that we've become acquainted with so far, but there are definitely others worth considering. Lake Doya in Lower Hokkaido is a popular area within the Shikotsu-toya National Park. Rishiri Island and Rebun Island are super remote locations around the northern tip of Hokkaido. Kushiro Shitsugen National Park in eastern Hokkaido constitutes the largest marsh area in Japan. The area is famous for majestic red-crowned cranes, which are best viewed during the winter months. Hokkaido is the largest prefecture in Japan, and more than 5 times larger than the next largest one. Hokkaido is incredibly vast and desolate. It's wild and untamed, and contains a lifetime's worth of natural sights of beauty. Hokkaido is also the place in Japan to best understand and grant recognition to the historically marginalized Ainu peoples, the original inhabitants of eastern Japan and nearby islands of the Far East. Be sure to consider a national park area when planning your visit to Hokkaido. Pack for the wild and immerse yourself in Hokkaido's natural wonders. There really is an entire country to see just past Sapporo, and we believe that national parks in Hokkaido are a smart way to tap into an indelible experience of Japan's northern frontier. Japan Travel Smart has already been around for 1 year. That's right, it's been a year since our debut episode. We started a bit rough around the edges, but we believe to have found our footing and cadence. So whether you've been listening for a while, or you just picked up our show, you have our sincere thanks. We hope you remain with us on this journey, and we aim to raise the bar in worthwhile content and inspiration for travel in Japan. If you have any questions about the information from this or a prior episode, feel free to reach out to me at japantravelsmart@gmail.com. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like me to cover in the future, feel free to suggest it. We want to prioritize an intimate and dedicated listenership rather than working an algorithm. So this can be your chance to tailor the show to a specific need while that's still possible. We look forward to hearing from real listeners of JTS like you. My name's Johnny, and I'm signing off with your reminder to, above all, be smart. And everything else will fall in place.